So today I had an amazing discovery when I was doing the work of Byron Katie, and I thought I would share it with you guys because I think a lot of people will be able to relate, and I am personally very excited about the implications of the discovery that I just made. The thought that I questioned was, my life could never be complete without the one. The one. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. This is the moral of every fairy tale that we hear, every Disney movie that we watch, and every love song that we hear on the radio. So it's not like I'm like really stupid for believing this, or like that anybody else is really stupid for believing this. But as you're about to find out, as I found out, it's really harmful belief that I really don't need or want. So I'm going to share my work with you because I think that would be a cool thing to do, and I hope that it might be helpful to you. So, if you're not familiar with the work, you can check it out at her website. It's www.thework.com. And basically, I'm going to go through a process where I question this thought and slowly pick it apart until I realized that it's not true. Spoiler alert! It's not true. Okay, so the thought is, my life could never be complete without the one. First question, is it true? I already knew the answer was no. Second question is, am I absolutely sure that it's true? Obviously no. The reason I said no is because I've been suspecting for a while that it's not true, so I said no. Question number 3, who are you? What happens to your life when you believe this thought? So I went into a lot of detail because I know that this has caused me a lot of suffering. So I really went into it. I wrote, desperation, I suffer, I feel empty and lonely and full of longing. I feel miserable. I can't focus on anything besides getting the one. I am hasty to fit somebody into that space without really looking at who they are. I try to force people into that spot, into that shape for me. I hurt people. I manipulate them and try to make them into a different person. I lose touch so that they can be the one for me. I lose touch with all the other things and people who are important to me. I lose myself. Misery, lack, emptiness, aggressive need to control others, manipulation, bullying, and coercion. So I went deep. I sat here for a while just feeling this, just feeling the implications of this belief that my life can never be complete without the one, and just thinking back over, past relationships. And those are serious consequences. Those are things that I really don't like about myself. So, question number 4 is, who would I be without that thought? And the truth is, it took me a while before I could even start to imagine anything, because I think I've had this belief for a very long time, and I just sat there and I had trouble conceptualizing that. I sat there for a while and I was just like, my life could never be complete without the one. Who would I be without this thought? What would my life be like if it was impossible for me to believe this thought? One of the things I've heard Byron Katie say that I really liked when she's phrasing this question, number 4, was basically imagine, what if I was what if I was born with a weird defect where my brain was incapable of believing this thought? So that's what finally did it for me. I was like, okay, what if I just had this weird, that part of my brain is missing, the part of my brain that believes my life could never be complete without the one. So I'm just this weird girl that's never occurred to her, that idea that she's not complete without the one. So who would I be? And then I started to be able to see that. I was like, oh, I could be this weird person who is peaceful. So this is what I wrote for that. Peace, respecting others, relief, freedom. I would be so full of love in my life. Who would I be without the thought, my life could never be complete without the one? I would appreciate all the people and places in my life. I would have acceptance and contentment. I would have freedom and peace. I would get to know someone slowly, open-mindedly, unhurriedly, and with full presence. I wouldn't be waiting for anything. I'd be fully committed to living right now. I would fill in my own spaces with love and presence. I would form deeper, more intimate relationships with friends and family instead of saving it for the one. That was big for me. I didn't really realize that I was doing that. I would let a lover come or go freely. I would have a secure attachment to my own life. They can take me or leave me. I would make the choices that make my life work for me. I would devote myself to loving myself and the world. It's a lot of good stuff. So one of the extra bonus questions that Byron Katie asks is, can I think of a stress-free reason to keep the thought, my life could never be complete without the one? I was like, can I think of a stress-free reason to keep it? I mean, I suppose it's romantic. But in comparison to question number 2, bonus question number 2, which is, can I think of a good reason to drop the thought, my life could never be complete without the one? Yeah. That long list of suffering, that was the answer to question 3, is plenty to let go. If the only good thing about it is that it's romantic, I'm willing to sacrifice that. So now I did the turnarounds, and those were also very powerful. Number 1, so the turnaround is taking the original thought, my life could never be complete without the one. The first turnaround I found was, my life could never be complete with the one. Okay, this is freaking amazing. My life could never be complete with the one. And that is true. I wrote, yes! You're supposed to write 3 examples, so sorry. I wrote, yes, because the one takes too much of my focus. I invest too much of my energy into them, and my life is less fulfilling. I suffer waiting for them to complete me in return for all this focus that I'm putting on them. But they can never satisfy this impossible expectation. This is all just speaking from my experience. In any of these relationships where I thought this person was the one, which is most of them. Then I start to try to manipulate them into doing a better job of being the one. So that's a long example, but I really wanted to be thorough because this has caused me a lot of suffering and I just really wanted to undo it. So my second example of how my life could never be complete with the one was, the concept of the one does not work for me. It never really did. It is damaging to my life, to my relationships, and to my wholeness. And number 3 was, I neglect my spiritual path, my creativity, my friendships, whenever the one is in sight. So that's gigantic to go from my life could never be complete without the one to my life can never be complete with the one. Suddenly, the one goes from being this indispensable thing that I have to have, and if I don't have it, everything sucks, to, oh my god, the one is something like that I don't want. What? Not only do I not need it, I don't even want it. My life is better without it. And that's totally true. Just looking at like the times that I've been in a relationship in the past like 5 years, the times that I've been in a relationship with someone who I thought was the one, who was trying to be the one, versus the times when I was just single and like actually having like a pretty great life. And that's not to say that there haven't been beautiful moments in the relationships that I've had in the past several years. There have been so much good, and I've learned so much, and I've healed so much, and it's been very beautiful. But generally, looking at my life during those phases versus when I'm not with somebody, I can see that I've actually been happier and my life has been fuller when I haven't been in a relationship. And I don't think that's because relationships are bad. I think it's just because of this belief about the one. I think it would be very interesting to see how it could be different. And hopefully I'll have an opportunity to do that. Anyway, so second turnaround. From my life could never be complete without the one to my life can be complete without the one, obviously. So I made 6 examples of this. I feel very complete on meditation retreats. I feel complete when I'm dancing. I feel complete when I'm asleep. I feel complete when I'm sharing with friends. I feel complete when I'm in the woods. I feel complete when I'm making art. So I could have kept on going, but I thought that was plenty of examples. Every single one of these examples proves the fact that this belief that I've carried for so long is simply not true. There are so many examples of me where I do feel complete. And the insight that I got from this turnaround number 2 is also really big for me, because I think up until now, I thought that incomplete was a status, a static status. So basically, I am not in a relationship with the one, therefore, I am incomplete and I will be until I find the one, okay? Which is a very heavy belief. But the weird thing is, it's so not true. And so this was like 6 bullets in that concept saying like, oh, hold on a minute. But you felt complete when you were meditating. You felt complete when you were painting earlier. You felt complete when you were talking to your friend yesterday. It's just poking all these holes, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this concept of being incomplete is just a passing concept that I sometimes feel. And that the thing that happens is that when I'm believing it, I don't just believe it for that moment that I'm feeling it. I universalize it to forever into the past and forever into the future. I always have been incomplete. I always will be incomplete until I find the one. But that's just the spell that's cast when I'm in that moment of feeling this feeling. It's very different to realize like, oh, actually, throughout any given day, whether I'm in a relationship or not in a relationship, I have some moments when I feel complete and I maybe don't even notice. And then I might have a couple moments where I feel incomplete and I feel a sense of loneliness. And that is just a moment. That's just a passing emotion, just like getting mad for a minute or being sad for a minute. Like, it's very different to recognize that feeling incomplete is simply a passing state that moves across my heart sometimes, rather than thinking that it is a status that I'm stuck in until a certain thing happens. That's a brain explosion for me. And turnaround number 3 is my life could never be complete without myself. Duh! Without myself. My life could never be complete without myself. Yeah. Example 1. My presence and love and acceptance is what makes any experience complete for me. And that's just, again, example 2. The more present I am in my life, the more satisfying it is to me. And that's the reason I think why my life has actually been better when I'm not in a relationship, because I tend to be more present in my life when I'm not in a relationship, because once I get into a relationship, I have, having this belief, I've put so much of my focus on trying to make that relationship complete me that I actually have less moments of experiencing completeness. Isn't that sad? But it's okay. I think, I just basically said the third one is I often suffer and feel so much emptiness when in relationships because I stop being present in my own life. So, I'm excited to see what happens now that I've done this work. From my life could never be complete without the one to my life could never be complete with the one. My life can be complete without the one, and my life can never be complete without myself. Thank you for listening. If you want, here, I'm just going to quickly share. I wrote a poem about this. I thought I was incomplete until proven otherwise. Silly me. Incomplete is just another wandering stranger. He shows up sometimes with his persuasive ways, somehow convincing me that he has always been there, always will be. But under a closer observation, a brilliant discovery. In truth, he is just a passing storyteller, and when he takes his leave, well, there's the rest of me. Simply abiding, simply complete. What more could you ask of me? Alright guys, thanks for listening. Hope that helped. Blessings.